you. We would now begin with our third technical session. This will be chaired by Dr. S. Bharathi, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Srinivasan, Dean University, Kumbakonam, Tamil Nadu, India.
Yeah.
Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. So first of all, good afternoon to everyone. So this is the third technical session. And so far I had been listening to so many wonderful papers in this conference, and especially the previous chairperson has wonderfully talked about the situation and how to incorporate this health education to everyone. So it has been great listening to you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And here we have 4 paper presenters. The first one is Mr. Ramadan Razali. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
So Mr. Ramadan Razali is a lecturer at Faculty of Economics and Islamic Business, IAIN, Lakshmawe. Am I spelling it right? Lakshmawe?
Yeah, Lakshmawe.
And his title of the paper is The Role of Islamic Economic Education in Overcoming Equality in the Pandemic Period. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much to Mr. Chairman. First, I would like to thank you to the CAPE, Comorin Trust India, and Lavender Literacy Club India. Can I share my screen, ma'am?
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
All right. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'll present my presentation today entitled The Role of Islamic Economic Education in Overcoming Equality in the Pandemic Period. So, like we know, the spread of the coronavirus has risen significantly in recent months, reported that have reached 43 million cases worldwide. According to WHO statistics, with the death rate rising 1.2 million people, the rise in the COVID-19 virus has consequences for different industries. So a sector which is very disadvantaged is the education sector. The government has introduced various policy to ensure the dissemination of COVID-19. The strategy is the transformation from face-to-face to online education in our country. The second is restricted in infrastructure and service. The third is internet network. And the fourth is cost. But the other side, some people think that COVID is pandemic with a positive factor. They said, for example, the pandemic can trigger the acceleration of educational transformation, the emergence of many online learning applications, or many of the emerging application of online learning. The third is many free online courses. The fourth is the emergence of boundless imagination and collaboration, parents and teacher. According to Ristan Halal Shahaji explained the impact of the pandemic on education more specifically. According to him, pandemic is detrimental to all parties. For example, Indonesia with the pandemic, the government did not hold a final exam. The loser in this case are the student families who want their children grade school graduate also with another impact. So they don't have the grade because there is no final grade and emergency of an economic recession. It makes it difficult for graduates to find job. Apart from education, another sector that has been affected by the pandemic is the economic sector. So the COVID-19 is not only affect the middle to upper class society, but also affect the middle to lower class society. The pandemic is also the cause of reduction of in work right of employers in the company. And difficulty of the street vendors normally to tackle rampant poverty. The Indonesian government assists in the form of basic food assistance, cash social assistance, village fund, or we say it BLT, free electricity, pre-employment card, employee salary subsidies, and BLT for micro and small business. So, like we know, when in Indonesia, state strength in economy in the Islamic economic sector. For example, the increase in the halal sector to 7.8%, the Muslim fashion sector increased by 0.8%. Even if we analyze further, the Indonesian state revenue is supported by the Islamic economic sector by 5.78%. This value is inversely proportional to the country income from GDP. GDP is only able to contribute 5.2%. So apart from Indonesia, the Islamic economy in Malaysia also has some rule. According to Zakaria, he is expert Islamic economist in Malaysia. He said that the Islamic economy sector that really helps people during the pandemic. The instrument that really helps people in during the pandemic is zakah. So the contribution given by zakah is very large. For example, he said that in the 2017, zakah contribute 2 billion Malaysian ringgit. So according to Zakaria, the optimal and professional collection of zakah will able to sustain the Malaysia economy. This is the methodology in this research. So I analyzed that this paper with the Rawls theory, and we can take the result. So when we talk about the equality, so we talk about the social justice. In many literature, the term social justice is widely used in the 19th century. Scholars use the term social to describe people in their quest for justice. In the course of social justice has been used by the political elite, but in the principle, social justice is neutral. In an economic context, social justice also means distributed justice. According to the author, the essence of social justice in the economy is equitable distribution in the society. So to create equality in society as described by John Rawls, everyone must have the same right to the broadest basic freedoms, as wide as the same freedoms for all people to achieve equality in the economy. According to him, even though the social economy inequalities occur in society, so the government must regulate this inequality to provide benefit for the most disadvantaged people. Therefore, all possession are open to everyone. So, furthermore, Rawls in his book entitled "Theory of Justice" explained that the existence of this chief principle freedom in an literal profit taking will not occur. These two principles are inseparable. In contrast to Rawls, there is some expert Islamic economists say that explain that there are two conceptions of social justice, namely first to realize the teaching of what is proper and which should be abound. Secondly, guarantee needs and realizing equality. Both concepts require a social possession and material reward to everyone as much as possible according to the place along with the level of service. So I would like to explain in a religious context, in Islamic context, Islam recognize the material disparities in human life. Apart from these disparities, ownership determine poverty. Therefore, the equalization of wealth is an important concern in Islam. According to expert Islamic economist, the other, his name is Fazlur Rahman, the form of social justice in Islam is that every individual is free to seek wealth without any limit of wealth except for haram asset. I mean, however, the wealth obtained must also be given to the poor. In Islam, the distribution, as we know, it is zakah, infaq, and alms. If we analyze in terms of the principle of social justice, the distribution of zakah to the poor will equalize the welfare of society. So the first, John Rawls, in one of his theories of social justice, say that for social justice to be constructed, also all position and position are open to all people. Islamic teaching emphasize the people work hard, so that there is an equalization of wealth. However, Islam realized that humans have a different talent and ability. Therefore, people's income must vary. However, Islam provides equal opportunities to all people who are different in their talents and ability. Thus, in addition, emphasize brotherhood. Islam also emphasize work and achievement. Islam consider work as the most important way to find sustenance and the main pillar of production. The actualization of social justice in Islam is reflected in the defense of Islam against the weak, need, and poor. However, Islam does not provide only for these poor people behind the distribution. Islam teach that these people can live them from their faith, so that in the end they do not depend on other anymore. The instrument of zakah is also intended eliminate or at least to reduce poverty. And to eliminate the cause of destitution and poverty, and to fulfill their need to hold their life, so that the poor do not need assistance from zakah asset anymore. Therefore, the zakah given to those in need should not only be consumptive in nature, but rather productive. The second principle used in distribution is equality or equality. Generalization in the distribution of Islam in right translate of it by dividing the right according to each call. For example, the distribution of zakah, which is more intended for the poor, for the poor people. In the case, the distribution of asset was more predominantly directed for the poor. Although in essence, more assets are used as state income.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Could you please be brief, because we are running out of time.
Okay.
15 minutes is getting over.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this is the rule on Islamic economics education in the forthcoming social equality. If we talk about the Islamic economy, then we must know about the principle of Islamic economy. Among the principle of Islamic economics are the resource or the trust is a gift from God, so that the people should not arbitrary. The second is there is no absolute ownership. All ownership is God's. The third is the co-creation, so that each drive the economy. The fourth is equal distribution of wealth, also disparity. The fifth Islamic economics guarantee community ownership and its use is planned for the benefit of the people. And finally, someone who has a certain wealth is obligated to pay zakat. So to apply this principle to students, I believe that we as educational personnel must provide very adequate knowledge. Besides that, we must also emphasize the above mentioned principle, so that the mentality that is formed in them is the mental of an Islamic economist, which is the mental existence of an Islamic economist there is a generalization problem. Social is not a problem anymore. This is my presentation, Madam. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you so much.
So, in your paper, what I found is it is totally new to me. This economics is a new area, but still, it was quite an interesting paper, and also the paper is the need of the hour. So, what I found is this Islamic economic education. It has a crucial role in realizing an attitude of solidarity towards the society. And your paper also reinforces on equalization of wealth, which is the main goal of this economic system in Islamic education, isn't it? And also you have applied this Rawls theory of justice. So it was quite enlightening to me, and it was, as I told you, a very new area, so which I would like to barge in future. So in addition, in your paper, you also highlighted how this Islamic economic education is developing the awareness for the generation in realizing social justice. So this Islamic theoretical considerations on monetary and credit issues are indebted to the Middle Age analysis, right? And which also proves to be of great interest for having a number of points in common with similar analysis developed in even in Christian context. So whether or not this contribution is important to economic science is still an open question, especially in this pandemic situation. So in a context where social cohesion and state intervention both play an essential role, so this money becomes a fundamental instrument. Once again, I thank you for this wonderful presentation.
Yes, Madam. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So let us move on to the next presenter, Ms. Isharani Das. Ms. Isharani, are you there?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Am I audible to you?
Yes, yes, you're quite audible. So Isharani Das is an assistant professor in the Department of English, Vivekananda Mission Mahavidyalaya, West Bengal, India. And her title of the paper is Pandemic, a New Trend of Online Education, Issues and Challenges in India. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay. Hello and good afternoon, everybody. This is Isharani Das, as ma'am has already introduced me, assistant professor from the Department of English of Vivekananda Mission Mahavidyalaya, West Bengal, India. Today my topic is pandemic, new trend of online education, issues and challenges in India. The fatal silent killer, COVID-19, has turned out to be an egregious jolt to the modern human civilization, dreaming of a more blissful life with the aid of more advanced science and technology. The worldwide pandemic shocked not only the medical science and commerce and the daily mass life, but also the traditional mode of teaching learning in the arena of education. Though the revolution already ushered in the distance mode of learning, open education and online education across the globe, the recognition of the online education in India before the outbreak of corona pandemic in 2020 was small. The gruesomeness and uncertainty of its extensive period forced the government and educationists of India to think over the new way to combat against the suspension of teaching and learning, to not deprive its millions of students from the opportunity and pleasure of education. The augmentation of the web of internet and the surging demand of the advanced technology facilitated smartphones have paved the way to reconsider the theory of online education, and various educational institutions, especially in the strata of higher education, have actualized it in reality. Before proceeding further, I would like to share the screen. I would like to present my slides. With the preliminary initiatives on the part of the several academics, the PM eVidya platform with 12 new DTH channels is another enterprise on the part of the central government to simplify the digital education one step further. This will cater to the needs of those underprivileged students who don't have the access to the internet or smartphones, but the television and radio. With this earnest endeavor, a voluminous proportion of the educational institute going learner population will be benefited. Also with this program, the top 100 universities have been permitted to commence a bunch of online courses to enhance the learning process better, even when the educational institutions will remain physically closed, out of the terror of rapid contamination and spread of the virus among the stakeholders.
Hello. Okay, now I want to presentation for about education in this world. I mean in Indonesian country. I from Malaysia, but I will presentation for about Indonesian country education. Indonesian country education of Indonesian country. I mean, it's like.
Sir?
Sir, I need some time.
So let her finish her presentation, sir. After that you can.
Yeah, thank you, because I have very limited time to complete my presentation. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Every possible measure is taken to get the students out of this dark situation of pandemic to continue their studies uninterruptedly, not to impasse or regress their development in respect of their learning and intellect. To cope up with this new normal situation in the field of education, everybody struggles with the new e-learning, teachers, students, and parents. Amusingly, this new digital education or e-learning and its expansive aggrandizement was already foreseen in a science fiction, The Fun They Had, by the American author Isaac Asimov, first appeared in 1951. Here, Margie, an 11-year-old little girl, has to study in front of a mechanical teacher in a room of her house at the preset duration of hours, every day except Saturday and Sunday, and the concept of school is completely different from the experience before the pandemic and lockdown. I would like to read some quotes from the text. Margie went into the schoolroom.
Okay, thanks for your time and
It was right next to a bedroom, and the mechanical teacher was on and waiting for her. It was always on at the same time every day except Saturday and Sunday, because her mother said little girls learned better if they learned at regular hours. Though Asimov imagined this futurity of the year 2155, the worldwide pandemic accelerated its velocity in 2020. And the digital education is the present prime need and absolute reality. This new mode of education has imparted a new dimension to the lives of the students as well as teachers. It has saved the time and money behind journey, books, and food, facilitating the education in the comfort zone of home. In addition to this, the parents can also monitor the trajectory of students' learning process from their own house. But in spite of all these positive aspects of online education, with the passing of days, this newly popularized mode of teaching learning seems entwining with considerable significant issues and challenges in the country like India, where poverty and malnourishment is itself a great threat. In the Indian subcontinent, many families are there where education is merely an indulgence. With the growing consciousness towards the importance of education and with the great endeavor on the part of the government and other non-governmental agencies, some students belonging to the poor families endure lots of hardships in order to pursue the higher studies. Money is a great factor for them. Albeit the online education during pandemic and lockdown has saved the day-to-day expenditure, it demands more. To this kind of poor students, a smartphone or Android set or laptop is like a distant planet. Even to this kind of families, sometimes affording a television set with cable connection is next to impossible. Without all these electronic gadgets, students from low-income family cannot avail the goodness of digital education, and somewhere they are being deprived and their learning practices are getting hampered. Again, arguing for the transistor radio is dodging the audiovisual impact of the other electronic gadgets, which are far more effective in the learning process, lacking in radio. In India, notwithstanding the various internet service providers throw lucrative offers including bulky data, high-speed internet at low cost. The reality is that the subscribers face the issues like weak signal, no internet, poor internet service, even though the network shows up full on mobile screen. These problems are witnessed in remote rural areas as well as urban areas, and surprisingly in the metropolitan cities. Moreover, the internet facility cannot be utilized during the problematic weather like rain with lightning and thunder. Even it is dangerous to switch on the cell phone or laptop like online class gadgets in this kind of bad weather. This is also a serious issue challenging the smooth run of online education. In the physical space of a classroom, the concentration of the participants keeps centralized to the teacher's pedagogy. Whereas in the digital class, there is a huge scope to the division of attention in the comfort of house, manipulating the technology. One can entertain oneself visiting to various other websites, turning the video mode off, engagement to the household works. The students also feel negligent to the e-class if they know the provision of study materials at the end of the class. The online class test is also not immaculate as the examinees have the scope to utilize the books, notes, and internet. Over and above, the lacking of definite guideline of the students' attendance in online class has made the learners apathetic to the regular presence in the virtual class. The limited availability of the data pack is also a great obstruction to the teachers to instruct the pupils to keep their video mode on, as a student has to attend many classes in a day, and taking this fact into account, the teacher cannot be strict to keep watching the alacrity of the pupils. In this context, gender discrimination is a great barrier to harvest the goodness of the online class. Due to being at home, the girls are mostly bound to do the household chores while the boys to perform outdoor duties. This is natural that the girls have to spend much more time in accomplishing the domestic duties than the boys. Again, the girl student has to sacrifice her e-learning if she has a brother and only one electronic gadget in the house is available, and the timing of the class clashes. The innumerable villages in India still exist without electricity, and online learning in these places is pretty much difficult. To the ardent learner, charging the gadgets like smartphone or laptop is impossible in these regions, and even if the gadgets are charged from somewhere else, it is improbable to do this every day, covering a lot of distance and use it for the learning purpose. This is not only applicable for the students only, but the teachers also. The issue of joblessness in huge scale and the migration of the millions of laborers to their native places during the corona pandemic and lockdown have yielded the economic restlessness and aided the standard of living of the citizens, which also got reflected in the online learning. The parents have become baffled. On one hand, the thought of sustaining the family with the basic daily needs corrode their mind. On the other hand, the anxiety of the fees of the school and the purchase of electronic gadgets with the internet data pack only aggravate the wrinkles on the forehead. To attend the virtual class on smartphone, tab, or laptop, it is very important to have a sound knowledge of how to operate the devices, which is very much onerous for the school-going little children, who are especially the first learning generation of the families. The families who are solely dependent on the teachers in the school find it really hard to educate the children through the online, because now the responsibility is divided and mostly fallen upon the delicate shoulders of the students to learn by themselves. Though there is a facility to clear the doubts through the verbal communication over the phone, the uneasiness always walks in the minds of the learners and parents. The tactile motivation, a prominent feature of real class, is absent in the online class. The little children to whom the patting on the back, mild stroke on the head, or a simple touch meant a lot more, feel lacking in the screen. It seems to them mechanical, drab, and dreary. Even the e-learners belonging to the strata of higher education desiderate the warmth and vivacity of the real classroom teaching. The last but not the least, the state first pair of eyes to the screen of the electronic gadgets such as cell phone, laptop, television for the hours have been proved detrimental for the eyesight of the learners. The exposure to the blue light containing the wavelength from 380 nanometer to 500 nanometer emitting from these devices can generate serious issues like blindness. Parents who were previously dead against giving the smartphones to the children or let them watch the television for too long are now concerned about the eye health of their children attending online class. The online class in the present scenario is only a stopgap to continue the education, taking the safety and security of the students into consideration. The enjoyment in face-to-face interaction with the teachers in real classroom is obviously missing in the digital education. Margie, the protagonist in Isaac Asimov's The Fun They Had, is dejected in learning with a mechanical teacher. She imagines the fun the school children had in old days. As the time is very limited and the time is running out, I would like to read out some quotes from the text. The merchant did so with a sigh. She was thinking about the old schools they had when her grandfather's grandfather was a little boy. All the kids from the whole neighborhood came, laughing and shouting in the schoolyard, sitting together in the classroom, going home together at the end of the day. They learned the same things so they could help one another on the homework and talk about it. And the teachers were people. The mechanical teacher was flashing on the screen when we add the fractions 1 by 2 and 1 by 4. ... Margie was thinking about how the kids must have loved it in the old days. She was thinking about the fun they had. Conclusion. Now I am concluding my presentation. The present pandemic surely has shown the way to the digital education, and it is envisioned the futurity in the map of education across the globe. Hence, it requires a special attention from the end of the Ministry of Education of India to address the issues and challenges of online education in order to go the rhythm of world education. Now, I would like to finish my PowerPoint presentation. I would like to show you some slides. This is the picture of a real class. Now, this is the picture of the school children going to the real school. And this is the online class.
Yeah.
And this is the comparison between the human teacher taking the class in real physical space, and this one is the robot, the future, I think the future teacher. And this is the slide showing the vision of the future education. Here you can see the 4 layers of our future education, and now at last we will perhaps we will have the robotic teacher teaching our children, our next generation. Thank you. Thanks to all of you for listening to me with your patience. And this is my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Rishadas, for your wonderful presentation. So you have given a clear picture of how difficult it is to handle the online sessions, and even right now when we are handling these technical sessions, we have so many issues, network connectivity issues, voice is not heard properly, or sometimes the PPT is not getting displayed. So though technology has advanced, but still there are some places in India, not only in India, even in many other countries, they do face the same issue. So what I want to say is face-to-face teaching can never be compromised with online teaching. Online teaching can be additional aid. And we are talking about robotic teachers in the future. But okay, that is to some extent. But no human teacher can be replaced with a robot. Then the future will become a question. So that is what I feel. So it was a very great presentation, and it was quite enlightening and interesting topic because it is related to our country. So in every country, not only in India, even in other countries, the UNESCO, it has found that the countries which are affected by COVID-19, the government should focus on mitigating the disproportionate which affects on children and youth who already experience barriers in the education, as you have pointed out, or who are at the risk of being excluded for a variety of reasons. And also the health issues which you have mentioned, like getting our eyesight
problem, blindness.
Not only that, people also have some psychological issues, constantly watching the screen and listening to, which we are not used to in our previous decades. And even the young children who are yet to develop. So in olden days, we advise them to keep away from mobile, but now we are encouraging our future generation to be a part and parcel of this technology. So still, we have to overcome this pandemic situation so that we can back to be reversed to the normal life And thank you so much, Shishika, Isha Das.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for
Yeah.
listening and
Right.
thank you for your feedback. Thank you very, very much.
So that was wonderful. So let me call upon our next speaker of this session, Ms. Humakar Malik. Ms. Humakar Malik, are you there? Ms. Humakar Malik? Humakar Malik, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Ms. Humakar Malik is a research scholar in the
Yes, ma'am.
Department
I'm
of
here. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes. Okay, fine. Get ready. Sociology from Bhavant University, Ajmer, Rajasthan. And her title is An Analysis of Support and Assistance via Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao scheme to save the daughter, educate the daughter in Jammu and
Yes.
Kashmir Union Territory. Now over to you, Hima. Yes. Now it's over to you.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Is my screen visible,
Yeah.
ma'am?
Yeah, it is visible.
Is my PPT visible?
No, your screen is
Yes,
visible.
ma'am.
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
okay. I am Huma Akhtar Malik and I will be presenting analysis of support and assistance via Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme Save the Daughter Educate the Daughter in J&K UT. As we all know, here are my contents and this is my introduction. As we all know, girls play a very important role in the cultural, social, political, and economic life of a country. Women are the pillars of our society. They play a very important role in building our society. Our constitution gives great importance to the equality of status and opportunities for girls. So, girls' education should be progressively considered in relation to the national development. The National Policy on Education 1986 states the education of girls should receive emphasis not only on grounds of social justice but also because it accelerates transformation. So, Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme is the centralist government program. Beti Bachao Beti Padhao is an effective campaign to save the girl child and educate the girl child. This scheme is a good start for the girl child lives as it involves some effective efforts of the government of India. This program was launched by PM Mr. Narendra Singh Modi on 22nd of January in 2015. This it is a scheme run by the government of India with the aim of spreading awareness as well as improving the efficiency of welfare scheme for the girls. This scheme, as per the 2001 census of India, the sex ratio of children aged 0 to 6 was 9 to 7 girls per thousand boys, which was reduced to only 918 girls per 1000 boys in 2011. In 2012, UNICEF report ranked for 41 among 195 countries. In the population census of 2011, it was revealed that the population ratio of India 2011 is 943 females per 1000 males. The sex ratio 2011 shows an upward trend from the census 2001 data. Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao is the social awareness campaign, making the parents celebrate the birth of a baby girl instead of getting unhappy. Hundreds of years have witnessed families not rejoicing the birth of the girl child, not only in rural areas but also in educating urban circles. On the top of it, the Orthodox families used to go for female feticide or abandoning the girl child if at all she happened to be born. Social and family constraints did not allow the girls to go to school or to opt for higher studies. Beti Bachao Beti Padhao is run in favor of women and focuses on the empowerment and development of women. The diminishing ratio of girls in the child sex ratio is the major pointer of women empowerment. CSR includes both pre-birth inequality marked through gender-preferred sex selection and post-birth inequality against the girl child. Social discrimination against girls and easy affordability and misuse of the diagnostic equipments have resulted greatly into female feticide and ultimately decreasing the ratio of girls and ultimately discriminating the ratio of girls. As we all know, education makes the female folk aware about their legal, social, political, and economic rights. So, education is very important for girl child to make them realize their possibilities. Education helps them to raise their status in the society. It not only encourages them in political participation and economic independence, but also improves their quality of life. Education helps the women to acquire skills and self confidence to fight against hunger, poverty, ignorance, and ill health. So, educated women keep a balance in the family expenditure, thus improving the economic condition of their families. As it is common known fact that mother's lab is the first school for every human being.
Yes.
So, educated mother means a better schooling for a child right from birth, which in turn would lead to better and educated nation. So, here are some of the challenges which Kashmiri women of Jammu and Kashmir UT have faced. In this war-torn region, women are experiencing various hardships due to stress and after effects of war and infertility, as well as stress due to cultural pressure. That is mental makeup child, mental makeup girl child, and female feticide. As we know, Kashmiri society is patriarchal, male dominated society. Our patriarchal values and dependence on sons for continual continues to shape the entire family setup and structure of our generation. Family infanticide is the most visible sign of discrimination today, and violence against women. Women are getting affected by the various violence almost every day, which is disrupting the society. Women are becoming victims of violence at huge level day by day because of increasing crimes against women, according to the report of Crime Bureau of Central Ministry. And the third one, it is gender discrimination. Women are considered as weaker section of the society than men and given less importance. Girl child are becoming real victims of discrimination. There are also discrimination of power and work between men and women because of the patriarchal system families, that is the male dominated societies families. And fourth one, they face problems of female education. Women education percentage is low, especially in rural areas, because they are discouraged for higher education like professional and technical education, and they face problems related to unemployment. They are getting more problems in searching their suitable work. They become more prone to the exploitation and harassment in the work areas. Domestic violence, it's like endemic and widespread disease affects women. It is performed by husband, relative, or any other family member. And sexual harassment, it is a form of sexual exploitation of a girl child at home, streets, public places, transport offices, etc., with the family members, neighbors, relatives, or friends. And traditional practices, women fall victim to traditional practices that violate their human rights. The persistence of the problem has much to do with the fact that most of these physically and psychologically harmful customs are deeply rooted in the tradition and culture of our society. Some of these practices in JNK include sex selective abortion, female infanticide, and deliberate neglect of girls. There is deliberate negligence of girls, and child marriages, early marriages of the girls by their parents in order to escape from dowry. And inadequate nutrition is the childhood affect women in their later life, especially women belonging to the lower middle class and poor families. And the most important, son preference, which is spreading in Kashmiri culture. They affects women the place. Its consequences can be anything from fetal or infanticide to neglect the girl's child, negligence of the girl child over her brother in terms of such essential needs as nutrition, basic health care, and education. These are some of the challenges which are prevailing in our Kashmiri society. Beti Bachao scheme. the objectives of Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme are to prevent gender bias, sex selective elimination, is to ensure survival and protection of the girl child, and to ensure education of the girl child. The aim of the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme is to arrest the decline in the girl child sex ratio and to prevent women's empowerment in order to improve the women's status in the country. And this some of my objectives of the study are: the goal of the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme is to celebrate the girl child and to enable her education. So the the objectives of of the scheme is as under: to secure the survival, protection, and higher education of the girl child, to ensure empowerment of women through higher education and equal participation in all the working fields, and to prevent the sex selective elimination of the girl child, and to stop the discrimination of the girl child. Materials and methodology. My just study is purely theoretical. It is based on secondary data, secondary sources. The data is collected from journals, books, various internet sources, and related topic. Results of my study are: Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme. It's the government social scheme launched by the Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Singh Modi on 22 January 2015 in order to address the gender imbalance and discrimination against girl child. Beti Bachao Beti Padhao campaign has proved quite fruitful in creating mass awareness regarding the importance of girls in building a balanced society. Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme has yielded positive result, and it has ended discrimination against women in J&K. This scheme has shown encouraging results in reversing the declining sex ratio in the district, which has now improved to 972 women per thousand males. It was introduced for the survival, protection, and education of the girl child. It aims to address the issue of declining child sex ratio through a mass campaign. This scheme is very effective in enhancing the number of girl children and in bringing down the top drop rate in schools and number of female feticide cases. There is no difference between boy and girl child, and both should be treated equally by the parents and also by society. Girls are making their presence in every field, whether it is sports, whether it is literature, science, and education, etc. In various fields, girls are making their presence. Programs like Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme are motivating girls to achieve their goals. It is a very effective scheme which aims to improve the number of girl child, save girl child, and eradicate female feticide, and give them proper security, education, personal and professional development all around the country, all over the country. Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme has brought revolution in the J&K state. This scheme prevents primary female infanticide, devises new schemes, and works cohesively to ensure that every girl child is secured and protected by the ensure every girl child should get quality education. Apart from generating global headlines, the initiatives under the scheme have started bearing fruit as the level of awareness among the masses to work for the girl child upliftment is increasing. Under this scheme, even the district level education official must ensure that the benefits of free elementary education reach all the girls in this area. And
Miss
here is my
Yuma?
conclusion.
Miss Yuma, you can come
Yes.
to the conclusion. Can you come to the conclusion?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. This is my conclusion.
Yeah.
There is a powerful saying: when you educate a man, you educate a man only.
Yeah.
But when you educate
Educate a
a woman,
woman.
you educate a gender.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Beti Bachao scheme emphasizes on safeguarding and strengthening the rights of women. People should stop discriminating between the girl and boy child, and support both the genders equally. This program is to remove the social biases favoring the male child in society, as well as improving the status of girl child through safety and education. This scheme is not a medicine curing a disease, however, it is a supportive plan. This can be successful only when it will be supported by us. There is no need to change the attitude and mindset, especially parents, towards a girl child forever, so that she can too get the same opportunity after her birth, like safety, health care, education, etc. In this way, a girl child can be independently in entity and not a burden over her parents. Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme, it was initially started to promote the safety of the girl child. since childhood they are taught to make compromises for stuff their for their brother and for
Yes,
their when they
exactly
are
as
young.
you say. Yes, yes.
So they do not gain courage to express, and they will they will fight for their rights. In order to make this mission be beti bachao beti padhao scheme successful, we must first teach the existing girls how to be strong and self-willed, and more importantly determined in order to take decisions of their own lives. And man, these are my references from where I have collected data. I have taken my data. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Shimakar. That is a wonderful presentation. You have made a very thorough analysis and deeper study about this Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao scheme. And
Yes.
thank you for enlightening the people, the audience, on the major goals of this scheme, like bringing down the major issues like girl safety, protection, and giving them better education for their future so that they would not be a burden to their parents. So, not only
Yes.
this scheme, in Tamil Nadu, the then Chief Minister, Ms. Jayalalitha, she introduced a scheme called as the Cradle Baby Scheme. It is mainly for the female children who are killed or sometimes, in Salem area, in Tamil Nadu, especially the girl children, as soon as they were born, they were killed, or even before birth, they detected and they had this female feticide and other things. So now things are reducing, and thanks to our Prime Minister and our government, so they have taken this
Yes.
initiative, and I think that in future, as girl children and as women, we can come up in life and we can be on par with the other people in the society. And thank you so much
Yes,
for
ma'am.
your paper.
Thank you, ma'am.
So let us move on to the next paper presenter of this session, Mr. Prathamesh Nandan. Are you there? Prathamesh Nandan?
Yes, ma'am. Can you
Yes,
hear?
yes, I can hear you. Good afternoon, Prathamesh
Yeah.
Nandan.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Prathamesh Nandan is a
Yes,
research
ma'am.
scholar from the Department of English, Mangalore University, Mangalore, Karnataka. And his topic is climate change education, understanding contemporary reality and planning for future. Over to you, Prathamesh.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. I would like to share the screen
Yes.
presentation.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, is it visible, ma'am?
Yeah, it's
The
visible.
screen.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. I have slightly changed my title,
Okay.
but the thrust is the same, actually. So, what this paper does is make a case for climate education. This is predicated on the fact that climate change has been deemed an existential threat to humanity in our age. Radical changes have to be incorporated in the lives of the people and that of our country. Education here also, in combating climate change, I mean, education here also means equipping all classes of people with tools to access information based in reality and navigating the treacherous world of media. So we can sit here for hours actually and think of ways to make a better world, but it won't help. But it won't help, or it won't materialize unless the great masses of people are educated and mobilized. And so, education is a tool for this incremental awareness. When I say education, I mean it in the sense of education in the classroom as well as out in the public square. But I am not an expert in education dissemination right now, and pedagogy. So I also aim to appeal to the good people of this panel, to the learned experts over here, to spare a thought for climate change and climate education. So let's see how this connects to our present situation. Scientists say that incidences of novel viruses are going to increase in the future owing to habitat destruction. Habitat destruction will cause contact with, will increase our contact with wildlife who carry pathogens and transfer microbes to our bodies. This is a very simplified way of presenting it, but that is how humans acquire foreign viruses through other animals. We all know that economies of the world are in a slump. We need a reboot, in quotes, has been the mantra of the media lately, all over the world. What this means is increased production to increase GDP and jobs. What this translates to, what this translates to is more energy demand, meaning more fishing for fossil fuels, more habitat destruction, so more coal mining, deep sea drilling, etc., etc. Now, these activities are inherently related in lifestyle destruction, habitat destruction, dwindling of wildlife, taking away of self-reliance of local communities, and endangering local customs, art, language, culture, etc. And I could go on, but that is not the point of this paper. The point I'm trying to make is we could do without more habitat destruction to come out of this so-called economic slump. Actually, not so-called; it is real. But yes. So, for example, late in June 2020, the General Secretary of UN, Antonio Guterres, said that we can't go back to the way it was and simply recreate the systems that have aggravated the crisis. We need to build back better with more sustainable, inclusive, gender equal societies and economies. So, a national level policy in the lines of the Green New Deal proposed by some Congress people and senators in the US uh, would be welcome in our country too. Actually, it should be an imperative. A zero emissions policy is an imperative, and it would herald a significant step towards social justice, grassroots democracy, environmental justice, and protection. Now, climate change affects everyone, but I think it is a known fact that it does not affect everyone equally. So, for example, indigenous marginalized people groups are disproportionately affected. Uh, in an analogy, in the Western world, Black, Latinx, indigenous people and groups are more affected. And this is what is environmental injustice actually. Environmental injustices refer to disproportionate exposure or increased vulnerability of the poor and marginalized communities and people surviving on or below the poverty line. So, we cannot go back in the same vicious cycle of more fossil fuel use, and then habitat destruction, disease, socioeconomic inequality, dissatisfaction, unethical practices, and the looming threat of climate catastrophe. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to actually signal a very important shift to zero carbon policy, and this cannot be done without grassroots organization, without education and awareness of millions of people in our country. And that is why I am putting education at the center of it. But since I'm not yet an educator, I cannot devise policies. I'm just trying to connect elements together. So if we if we are to now, one of the positives that we all know of this pandemic is the low carbon emissions. But though it is no cause for jubilation, if we are to maintain this, the wise way to go forward would be to boost the economy through sustainable development. If public-private sector are to create more jobs in clean sectors, as reports say, then the working class will have cleaner and safer jobs, and we will reduce toxic wastes and carbon. According to a report, clean energy sector holds huge potential in India. Increment of renewable energy workforce equates an employment potential of over 3.3 lakh people by 2022. Also, a point to note is that many communities are self-reliant in nature. The indigenous people, for example, the indigenous people of Hasdeo forests in Chhattisgarh, these people have been self-reliant in the nature, and they have been recently devastated by the Adani project for coal mining. Another example is the fisher folk who live on the coasts of Gujarat in Kutch. The fisher folks' livelihood is imperiled because of the Tata Mudra and Adani projects in the coastal regions. So these are some examples of corporate business with cooperation from the government that devastate local communities and actually destroy their self-reliance. So self-reliance. So I call this an opportunity because carbon emissions, I call this pandemic situation an opportunity in shifting to zero carbons policy, because carbon emissions are at a record low. And as a reboot of economy going forward, we don't have to overwhelm ourselves with statistics of catastrophic carbon emissions. So I think it has started to soar now, but still it is at a controlled level. But decreased emissions can be used as a springboard to launch alternate industries, nature-based industries, and economy fueled by renewable energy. We already have dire warnings from international bodies and communities like the IPCC, the UN, various bodies of United Nations, Climate Action Tracker, etc., that a climate catastrophe is evident. But in India, we have not seen this develop into an issue, develop into a debate at the political level of how to approach this looming climate catastrophe. There are some vague indicators from public and private sectors of achieving zero carbon emissions, but they are not enough, and they are non-committal, and I don't know how far we can trust the private sector, especially. So what does this mean? This leap towards, or a shift towards, a zero carbons policy? It is not news now that protected wildlife sanctuaries during this lockdown in the last 3 or 4 months, protected wildlife sanctuaries have been opened for mining, coal mining, mineral mining during this lockdown. For example, Patkai Elephant Reserve in Assam, Rajaji National Park in Uttarakhand, Bhagwan Mahavir Wildlife Sanctuary, and Molem National Park in Goa were opened for mining in the last 3 or 4 months. This is directly antithetical to green ideals, to antithetical to recommendations by climate experts. We can say it is opposite to what the doctor ordered. A zero emissions policy should always protect wildlife, nature, and jobs also. Central theme of a zero emissions policy should be protection of jobs, because if we are to shift to a zero emissions policy, millions of jobs will be gone at first till other jobs in the renewable sector are created. So in this transition, the government should guarantee protection of jobs or support. So, and we have to uh, also battle the lobbying pressure of the billionaires and the huge corporations which are expert at lobbying the government to pass their business proposals and go on destroying the environment. So again and again, we see that mass mobilization and mass education comes into picture while we if we talk about protecting nature or combating climate change and for a safer future, for social justice, we see that education is at the center. So opportunities in nature-based economy. Changes from within a system geared these are small scale changes based on local and regional cooperation. So a system geared towards profit maximization is inherently destructive to society and common people. Totalitarian institutions like big business and corporates have a top-down hierarchy or a top-down control, and the employee or we are fitted somewhere. We take orders and give orders like a machine, and this structure does not foster empathy, empathy or protection of our fellow humans, fellow animals, and the nature. So this is a very dehumanizing structure and socially destructive, as I said. We can try to build more democratic and humane societies based on communitarian jobs and mutualism. We can't change the system radically unless the millions of common people, the poor masses, are educated and made aware. So, for example, if we derive livelihood from nature, like the fisher folks that I talked about, then we will be sincere in protecting the nature around us, the water bodies or the forest. So, how much time do I have, ma'am?
Yeah.
How much time do I have?
Can you end in a couple of minutes?
Sure, I'll come to the conclusion. So, young formative years for children are best for educating them about ecology and climate change and our threatening actions towards the nature. The goal should be to inculcate what is called ecological consciousness and empathy with all fellow humans and animals. Dialogues in public square are always welcome to cut through the bullshit, let me say, or nonsense of media, politicians, and corporate. We have to be able to see through the media talk, what sociologists call, in quotes, tactical framing. Media using double talk or focusing on irrelevant, unimportant issues. So instead of lost self-reliance of local communities, destroyed forests, or the opened mining, protected areas opened for mining that we did not see in mainstream media. Instead of all this, we will hear on the TV Pakistan or Trump or whatever nonsense, just nonsense. It does not connect to reality. So teaching critical thinking in young students is equally important when we think about education. The media also rarely voices the grievances of the unprivileged, marginalized classes. We have to devise ways to make those voices public and reach the government. Education encompasses all these critical faculties of critical thinking, faculties of empathy, etc. So um, the whole point is that we could sit here, as I said, and talk about how to make a better world, but I think we should focus more on translating our theories to practice, and we should.
Exactly. That is the need of the hour.
Yes,
That is
yes.
the need of that. Yeah.
And I am overly obsessed with this juncture of theory and practice. And related to climate change, I see that we have tons of knowledge about what is going to happen in the future, what is happening right now.
So when you talk about this climate change and other things,
Yes.
I remember the book by Amitav Ghosh, The Great Derangement, The Climate
Oh,
and Unthinkable. So where
oh,
he mixes this is a non-fiction work where he talks about the politics and the socio-economic issues under three themes like literature, history, and politics.
oh. Is
Uh,
it
so that is
non-fiction?
how science, it is a non-fiction book,
I'm going to
which
read it.
talks
Yeah.
about fiction. Yeah.
Okay.
I suggest that you should also read this book. That is a wonderful book which presents this great climate change and how it affects people and in what way. So this also shows Mr. Ghosh as a great storyteller as well as a deep analyst. Like a scientist, he has presented his view over there. And as you told, there are certain things possible. And do you think that this zero carbon emission, will it
Yes.
be possible in a country like India? And what do you think about the other countries? Every other country, say it, the US or other Western countries, they are blaming a country like India. And what about them?
This
Right?
is
That is
yes,
another
yes.
question.
This is the habit of the developed world to blame
So
our part of
since
the world.
we are at
I think
receiving end, people keep on blaming.
yes. And in my opinion, and lots of experts say that zero emissions policy is in fact possible. Yeah. With respect to India, reports have come out that say that India has an immense zero emission
What I
potential.
want to say is
Yes.
people have to understand. People have to understand because they think that their livelihood will be affected. So we have to
Yes.
go for alternate ways to sustain ourselves. So
Yes.
especially in this times of crisis where we face complex challenges like this global pandemics. So we need a collaborative response which transcends disciplinary boundaries and offers some novel approaches to this kind of vexing problems. So in the current moment, these biologists, engineers, and other people, even humanitarians,
Yes, ma'am.
so we have to join our hands together to create some kind of solution.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you
And
so much for your presentation.
yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And that is why I link this to education. And I would like to close with one example. As you said, America. So this new proposal, the Green New Deal proposal, you must have heard about it.
Yes, yes.
It has two parts. The second part focuses on this scary transition period actually, because the transition is going to be the scariest because lots of people are going to be jobless who are working in the energy sector. So what it proposes is we have the means, we have the finance to support these jobless workers through this period of transition until we create more job opportunities, more and more gradually increasing
Exactly.
job opportunities. So I think India can do this, and I think it is the need of the hour. And
Yes.
um,
Thank
I
you. I
don't.
think we have neared the end of the session.
Yes,
There will
ma'am.
be another sessions in the following. And thank you so much for your presentation. I hope that you will carry on the research in this line so that
Yes,
our country will get benefited. And
yes,
um, I would like to thank the organizers, especially Cape Comorin Trust, the Lavender Literary Club, and the other co-organizers, and my dear friend Dr. Shubhra Jambal, as well as Dr. Regin Silvest for giving me this opportunity. And now over to the organizers.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's
Yeah.
always a pleasure to be with you, even though we could not meet, but
Yeah.
at least virtually we are safe and for the
virtually
night.
we are together. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am, for chairing this
Thank
session.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.